Fred West sat in his prison cell under the harsh buzz of fluorescent lights. His fingers, rough from decades of labor, now shook slightly as he scrawled names and locations onto scraps of paper. He had confessed to 12 murders, each one more disturbing than the last. But despite the grotesque details he gave so freely, something in him had shifted. His usual bravado, the smirking arrogance of a man who believed he was untouchable, was crumbling. Rose wasn't visiting. She wasn't calling. She wasn't writing. She had vanished from his life as quickly as she had entered it decades earlier. The silence from her was heavy, deliberate. Fred had always considered them bound by something deeper than love, something darker. Now he realized she was slipping away, leaving him to face everything alone. As 1994 came to a close, Fred grew more withdrawn. He paced, he muttered, he stopped sleeping. On the first morning of the new year, January 1st, 1995, prison guards at Winson Green found him hanging by a makeshift noose crafted from his bed sheets. He had tied it to the bars above his window. There was no goodbye note, no explanation, just silence, and the faint outline of a crude map drawn into his Bible, a final message pointing to more bodies no one had yet discovered. The news of his death spread quickly. Some were outraged that he'd escaped justice. Others felt relief. But for detectives, Fred's death brought more problems than closure. There were still missing girls, still unanswered questions, still a trial to come, because Rose West was still alive, still denying, still dangerous. Her trial began in October 1995 at Winchester Crown Court. The country watched as one of Britain's most chilling murder trials unfolded over 7 long weeks. Rose stood accused of 10 murders. She pleaded not guilty to every single one. Where Fred had confessed, she deflected. Where Fred showed emotion, she showed none. Her face remained blank, her voice controlled. Prosecutors painted her as more than an accomplice. They called her a sadist, a predator, a woman who didn't just participate in the violence, but thrived in it. Witness after witness took the stand. Survivors recounted years of torment. One woman remembered being tied up and assaulted by both Fred and Rose. Another described the way Rose mocked her as she screamed. Former lodgers recalled hearing cries from the cellar, but dared not ask questions. Even neighbors began to reflect on the odd noises, the disappearing girls, the nervous children who never stayed outside too long. But it was the testimony of Anne Marie West that cut deepest. Fred's daughter, Rose's stepdaughter. She walked into the courtroom and sat before the jury like someone forced to relive a nightmare she had spent her life trying to forget. Her voice never cracked. Her story was clear. She told them she was raped by her father, beaten by her stepmother, and silenced with threats. She was 13 when Rose first helped hold her down. The room didn't move. No one breathed. Her words transformed Rose from a woman in a suit to something else entirely. An architect of terror. When the verdict came, it was unanimous. Guilty on all 10 counts of murder. The judge didn't mince words. He described Rose as calculating, cold, and cruel. She was given a whole life sentence, no chance of parole, no chance of freedom. She showed no emotion as she was led away. Months later, the house that held it all, 25 Cromwell Street, was demolished. There was no ceremony, no notice, just bricks, dust, and silence. The ground where it stood was paved over, left blank, as though erasing the structure could somehow ease the memory. But it didn't. People still slowed as they passed the spot, still whispered, still wondered what had really happened inside those walls. Even in prison, Rose maintained her innocence. She never confessed, never offered any explanation. And with Fred dead, no one would ever truly know how many others had died. He had hinted at more. Named girls police couldn't find, claimed bodies were buried in fields, forests, under highways. But they were just names now, drifting in and out of the fog of memory. The West children tried to move on. Some gave interviews, some changed their names. Some simply vanished from public life, trying to forget what they had survived. But the scars were deep. Their entire childhoods had been framed by fear, silence, and cruelty. Fred and Rose hadn't just hurt strangers, they had destroyed their own blood. The story of Fred and Rose West didn't end with their arrests, or the trial, or the demolishing of their home. It lingered in the archives, in the memories of survivors, in the systems that failed to protect children for decades. What terrified the nation most wasn't just the brutality, but how long it went unnoticed. They weren't monsters hiding in forests or shadows. They were a married couple, living on a quiet street, smiling at neighbors, raising kids, and behind that ordinary mask, they built a house of unimaginable horror.